Good morning, students. We are going to start with the first lesson in Unit 1 of our music module. You are going to learn an overview of the 20th century music and the two musical styles, Impressionism and Expressionism. So pakihanda ang inyong mga ballpen at papel para maisulat ninyo ang mga importanteng impormasyon. So are you ready? Come on, let's begin. So, umpisahin natin ang ating talakayan sa isang tanong. What is the music for you? So, music plays different roles or purposes depending on the listener. So, maaaring ang iba sa inyo, music is a form of entertainment. Sa iba, pwedeng ito ay inspirasyon nila. So, music can be defined as vocal or instrumental sound, or both. So, combined in such a way to produce beauty of harmony, form, and expression of emotion. So, for today's lesson, we are going to discuss about the music of the 20th century. So, you are going to learn about musical styles, their characteristics, and prominent composer of each style. So para sa araw na ito, pag-aaralan natin ang Impressionism at Expressionism. So 20th century music can be characterized by the innovations in musical style which challenge the convention of classical music. Ang mga sumikat na musical style noong 20th century ay ang Impressionism, Expressionism, Neoclassicism, at avant-garde. So advancement of technology in the 20th century resulted to the further development in producing music and made it possible to record music. So ibig sabihin, ang tinatawag natin na recorded music ang nagbibigay daan sa paglaganap ng 20th century music. Let's start our discussion with the first musical style. So the Impressionism. Impressionist music started in the late 19th century. So Impressionism music emphasized unconventional mood and emotion over the musical elements, transcending moods and suggestive imagery in Impressionism gave birth to unconventional harmony, rhythm, and tone color. So, unconventional means it does not follow the traditional or normal harmony, rhythm, and tone color of other past musical composition. So kabalagtaran ito ng romantic music na kadalas ay nagpapahayag ng matinding accent at emotion. Ang Impressionism ay nagpapahayag ng banayad na emosyon at hindi natin madalas na naririnig sa mood ng music. Ibig sabihin, kakaiba ngunit may emosyon na nais iparating sa mga nakikinig. So now let's discuss the characteristic of Impressionist music. So the harmony cannot be easily distinguished and the chords are overlapping lightly. So it doesn't have tonal center and uses 5-tone or whole tone scales. So pag nakikinig tayo ng Impressionist music, so para tayong nagdi-dreaming or nananaginip ng gising. At pakiramdam natin ay para tayong nakalutang. So, wala siyang malinaw na katapusan at pag may pagkakatulad siya sa musika ng Scotland, China at Ireland. Pangalawa ay ang rhythm ng Impressionist music. So it doesn't follow a central rhythm, though it is smoothly flowing and can be easily changed. So, It doesn't give the feeling of tapping your shoes with the music. Pangatlo ay ang tone color. So instrumentation retains the subtle flavor of Impressionism. Flute and chimes are set aside while shimmering instruments like harp, triangle, and glockenspiel are mostly used. So kapag nakikinig tayo ng Impressionist music, parang nakakaramdam tayo ng dreamlike at magical atmosphere. Through the efforts of different musicians who innovated the conventional elements of classical music, so the Impressionistic music was born. Here are some prominent composers of Impressionistic music. Let's have the first one, Claude Debussy. He was born in Saint-Germain in France. Isa siya sa mga leading founders ng Impressionistic music. He was known as an erratic piano player who enjoyed various themes in music. He experimented with the scale and modes and used overlapping chords. He also explored instrumentation, which led to the expansion of his talent in music from string to percussion instrument. So, ang music ni Debussy ay parang tula. He was known more of a poet than a musician. The second one is Maurice Ravel. He was a French composer known for perfecting classical music convention instead of rebelling against it. So ginamit niya ang modal melodies na isang estilo na ginamit ng mga Greek at ibang parte ng Western Asia. So Bolero was composed for Russian dancer named Ida Rubinstein. Bolero starts with a soft opening and ends with a loud and resonating conclusion. So nagkaroon siya ng sakit na aphasia, kaya nahirapan siyang ipagpatuloy ang paglikha ng musika. He died in Paris in 1937. Ravel and Debussy both admire and criticize each other's work. Okay, for the another part of our discussion, so we will have another topic. Pero magkakaroon muna tayo ng isang short activity. So I have here a picture of painting by Edward Munch with the title The Scream. So I think most of you have seen this painting maybe at least once. So now, I want you to answer the following question. What do you see? What do you imagine? What do you feel about the painting? So now let's discuss another 20th century musical style which is Expressionism. The painting, The Scream, is an example of Expressionism in art. So what is Expressionism? So generally, Expressionism is an art movement which puts emphasis on the responses of the people to their environment. Ang mga responses ng mga tao ay pwedeng pangit o maganda. Kaya ang expressionism ay hindi nagnanais ng perpekto, ngunit ang focus nito ay ang iba't ibang expression ng mga tao sa mundo. So, the same principle applies in musical expressionism as its origin in art. It avoids norm and convention to empower the fully and express raw and strong emotion. So the musical pieces under Expressionism convey intense emotion. So this musical movement comes as an aftermath of the war. That is why there was a felt needed for an outlet for strong emotions. So para sa Expressionism, ang musika ay mahalaga, ginagampanan sa paraan ng pagpapahayag ng damdamin ng mga tao. So now, let's discuss the characteristic of musical expressionism. Let's talk about its characteristic in relation to the musical elements, its style in expression, and what it makes listeners feel. Okay, sa harmony, mapapansin natin na wala itong tinatawag na tonal center. Kapag pinakikinggan natin ito, maaari tayong makaramdam ng pagkabalisa, galit, pagiging iba, at ibang matinding emosyon. Ang rhythm nito ay hindi balance. Kaya pag tayo ay nakikinig, hindi natin maramdaman na gusto nating sumayaw sa musika. Now, let's familiarize with one of the famous musical expressionists, Arnold Schoenberg. Was an American-Australian composer known for his modern method of musical compositions such as a tonality and the decaphonic or the 12-tone scale. He was an influential musical teacher and curist. He mentored numerous remarkable musicians and published music books. He started as violinist and his first musical composition was influenced by Romanticism but with unconventional harmony. Then he removed the traditional key and the tonal center. He created the 12 scale become his legacy in music. The decaphonic, also known as the 12-tone scales, refers to the use of a chromatic scale that makes one tone distinguishable from one another. In this technique, there is no emphasis on any note. These 12 tones serve as the backbone for a musical composition. Para mas maintindihan natin ang pagkakaiba ng Impressionism and Expressionism, may Venn diagram tayo dito. Para mas makita natin ang pagkakaiba at pagkakapareho ng dalawa. So Impressionism, subtle emotion, uses 5-tone scale. Expressionism naman, raw strong emotions, uses 12-tone scale. Similarities o yung pagkakapareho nila, lacks tonal center, avoid norms and convention, does not encourage swaying to music. So now we're done with our discussion. So before we end, I want you to answer the following question to see if you really understood our lesson. So number one, what are the famous musical styles in 20th century? Number two, how will you describe impressionistic music? Number three, who are the famous composers of the impressionistic music? Number four, define musical expressionism in your own words. And number five, why was Arnold Schoenberg known as one of the famous musical expressionists in his time? So, if you're done, I'll see you next time. Goodbye, everyone, and God bless.